We can hear.
Oh.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Sorry about that. I was going on and on and on and on, and I had my mic on mute. That is so embarrassing.
Thank you.
All right, my apologies. Thank you for saying something. We are going to start today with a passage from Exodus 15, the Song of the Sea. And then I want to show you something from Jeremiah. And then we're going to do some reading from BeShalach. BeShalach means in sending, and this is Pharaoh sending out Israel, the Exodus proper, and then the Song of the Sea comes afterward. That's what I want to jump in on right here. Okay, this verse right here is the second verse of the Song of the Sea. We get to see in the beginning, Moses and the sons of Israel sang this song to the Lord and spoke, saying, I will sing to the Lord, for he is highly exalted. He has thrown the horse and his rider into the sea. Okay, now except for this and this, the rest of this Song of the Sea is all about how strong and powerful and victorious and mighty God is. This right here is translated in many, especially older translations, as song, even though it doesn't really fit the context. Verse 2 says, my strength and song is the Lord. And it happened, he was to me a salvation. This is my God. I will glorify him, the God of my father, and I will exalt him.
Wait lang, there's a little bit.
What's your question? Irish, what's your question?
Oh, sorry.
This word right here, vizimrat, seems to come from the same root as mizmor. If anybody knows mizmor, that is a psalm. And it has to do with instrumentation or singing. It appears that the root zayin mem resh has to do with delicately touching, because it also is related to pruning, and it's also related to a gazelle, which lightly frolics and lightly touches on the ground as it moves along. And it has to do with music in the sense of lightly or expertly touching an instrument or something like that. Okay, so this word right here, does it seem to fit the context? Song. Well, maybe, because you're like singing because you're happy that God is so strong. Does it have to do with gazelles? No, God isn't a gazelle. Does it have to do with pruning? Not really. Let me show you something. If you skip on over, pun intended. If you skip on over to the Septuagint, it says something a little bit interesting. A helper and shelterer he became to me for deliverance. Where's the word song? It's not there. Why? Because this word right here is what's being translated from the Hebrew zimrat. Are you skeptical? If anybody knows any Greek, this is skeptastis, and it comes from the same root as skeptical. It just means that you're kind of covered or sheltered or kind of holding back. You're not sticking yourself out in the open. You're skeptical. You're covered. So this word right here is being translated as covered, protected, sheltered, in the sense of God is my shelterer. Well, how does that line up with the Hebrew? I mean, after all, Zimrat means song, right? Okay, so here's going to be a quick lesson on a level E concept. However, you don't have to be afraid. It's not like level E is this scary monster that's going to haunt you after you finish level D. In fact, in my classes, I like to hint at some level E concepts so that my students can kind of understand what's going on faster. So rather than me putting blinders on my students, I like to say, look, here's a little bit of messed up history. Check it out because it's pretty cool. Hebrew has how many letters in its alphabet?
23.
22.
22.
Sin and
Yes.
Shin are the same
Sin.
letter.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and in fact, we're going to talk about that Sin and Shin in just a second. So there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet or alphabet, but the how do I say this? The Proto-Semitic, the hypothetical Proto-Semitic language from which all Semitic languages derived seems to have had 29 consonants. So what happened is, for one reason or another, 7 of those consonants got absorbed into other consonants. Now, the letter C, how is it pronounced? Well, it could be ka, it could be sa, it could be cha, it could be sha, or it could be silent. Maybe you all can give me some examples, like C as in cat, or the first C in the word circle, or the ch, cha. Let's see, what else? Fascia has an sh sound. Indict is completely silent. How do we know how to pronounce the letter C? Because we see it in a certain word. That's as simple as it is. What I'm trying to argue here is that there are 7 consonants that the Israelites had to look at in context to know which was its pronunciation. Was it this one or was it that one? Sin and Shin is probably the best example because we get a because the Masoretic scribes actually differentiated between the 2 sounds represented by this one letter. But they would either put a dot on the right to make a shin or a dot on the left to make a sin. Those dots never existed before the Masoretes. You just simply had to know, oh, it's following a mem and a chet, it must be a sin. Oh, it's following a mem and a resh, it must be a shin. You just know because of what word it's in. Well, it turns out that there should have been more dots like this applied to the other, I'll say 6 letters. Turns out there are 2 different zayins. There's zayin 1 and zayin 2. Much like we could say sheen 1, which is the sh sound, and sheen 2, which is the s sound. Or maybe historically it was more like a the sound. I don't know. Nobody's there. Nobody was there. Nobody made an MP3 recording of it. We don't know what it originally sounded like, but they were close enough that they were represented by the same letter. Well, these 2, zayin 1 and zayin 2, the reason that we know they exist is because in other Semitic languages, we get to see some letter swapping. In Aramaic, a seed is zra, but gold is zahav. Wait, why did I spell this with a dalet? Why did Aramaic spell this with a dalet? In Hebrew, the word for gold is zayin, hey, bet, zahav. Nevertheless, Aramaic has dahav. Why? because Zayin 2 came into Aramaic as a Dalet sound, which is a the, like this, that, the sound. Chances are this is not a Zayin 1, this is a Zayin 2, and if we take this root thamar and look over at Arabic, it means protect. This would have originally been pronounced as Vezimrat, instead of Vezimrat. It was Zayin 2. So today we see Zayin Mem Resh and we think music. But in fact, Zayin Mem Resh would be protector. So my strength and protector is Yah seems to fit the context a whole lot better. About how amazing and salvation and mighty and man of war that God is. So that's a little sneak peek of a level E concept. Turns out there are two ayins, there are two tzadis. In fact, there are two sheens. Never mind sin, there are two sheens. So that means sheen actually came to represent 3 sounds. There's one other phenomenon I want to share with you all, and then we'll get into the reading, and it comes from Jeremiah 23:33. Before we do that, does anyone have a question about what you've seen so far?
This is kind of thing that they teach us in the Aramaic as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Class. Yes.
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
I've had it,
Aramaic, you'll learn it as well. Absolutely. Because there are so many similar words in Aramaic to Hebrew, except one letter is different. And you think, well, why? That's why. So it's taught in Aramaic in an attempt to help you learn vocabulary more quickly because you can connect it to your Hebrew. But in order to understand why Zahav becomes Dahav, you have to understand that there were these consonant shifts. In Jeremiah 23:33, there's something very interesting that happens. The chapter is about God talking to the prophet Jeremiah about the leaders who are corrupt, who are being led by false prophets, who are leading the people astray. And he says, when this people or prophet, let's see, okay, so the prophet or a priest shall ask you, saying, okay, so some leader of the people, I guess, is coming to Jeremiah, wondering, what is the burden of the Lord? Burden here is coming from the root nasa, to lift, bear, or carry. A masa with the missing noon in the dagesh is a noun derived from the root to lift, carry, bear. So it's a burden. What does it mean, the burden of the Lord? Well, what is it that God requires of me? Obviously, he does not require nothing from me. He requires something. So what is it? What is the burden of the Lord? What is it that I ought to do? And his answer is very strange. You shall then say to them, what burden? I will even forsake you, says the Lord. Huh? What? I'm sorry, God, that didn't make any sense. Let's have a look at the Hebrew, see if it makes any more sense. If one of these people comes to you saying, Lemor, Ma Masa Adonai, what? The burden of the Lord. What is the burden of the Lord? Ve'amalta, and you shall say, Alehem, to them. Okay, here it comes. Here's the quote. Et ma masa. Venatashti etchem ne'um Adonai. Okay, so we understand this part. Venatashti, I will forsake, etchem, you all, ne'um Adonai, oracle of the Lord. What is et? Either it's the preposition with, or it's your direct object marker. It tells you what receives the action of the verb. And there's no verb here. So what is the direct object? Ma. What? Why is the word what following after the direct object marker? A question word does not follow a direct object marker. That doesn't make any sense. Et ma masa? This is so confusing. I don't know what's going on. You can now understand why the English was such a clunky translation. Let's go over to the Septuagint, see if there's a little bit better clarification. Okay, what is the concern? They're translating it as concern of the Lord. Then you shall say to them, you are the concern, and I will dash you down, says the Lord. Huh? That's a very different reading than the Hebrew was. Let's go back to the Hebrew. All right. Originally, has anyone ever seen an ancient manuscript, whether it's Hebrew or Greek or something else? What you'll notice about them is that they don't leave much space between the words. When you're reading along, you have to discern where the spaces are. Spaces weren't really, they didn't exist early on. Your eyes just had to be able to differentiate between the words, and it wasn't until later that you would get either dots or spaces to know where one word stops and another one starts. What if what we have here is an incorrect separation of words? Aleph, Tav, Mem. What word is that? Aleph, Tav, Mem. Pretend that's not.
Emet, truth.
No, that would be Aleph, Mem, Tav. This is Aleph, Tav, Mem. What is Aleph, Tav, Mem? You all. Atem. Second masculine plural. Ha-masa would be the other word here, the burden. We have a nominal sentence here. You all are the burden. This is a bad translation. What burden? No, it should be you all are the burden. And in fact, in modern translations, you'll see as much. Let me see. This is, let me pick a good one. Where's the I think the NET Bible does it. Yeah. What is the burden of the Lord? What burdensome message do you have? It's almost like like a very liberal translation here. What burdensome message do you have from the Lord? Tell them, you are the burden, and I will cast you away. I, the Lord, have spoken. So this is a very interesting phenomenon where maybe somebody got the letters incorrectly separated into the wrong words, and it should have been somehow else. So this is a phenomenon just to keep your eye out for. I can think of a few examples in the Bible where this happens, and usually the Septuagint will come to the rescue and give us a better understanding. All right, any comments or questions on what we've seen so far? All right, so today we're in BeShalach. We are in Exodus 13:17. I half want to start with the song. You know what? I don't want to start with the Song of the Sea. That's probably going to be a little bit too advanced for us. Let's start at the beginning of the passage, unless somebody has somewhere that they want to start. If you would like to read, put your virtual hand up so your picture floats to the top, and then I can call on you to read. Thomas, go ahead.
Okay. Vayhi BeShalach Pharaoh et ha'am velo nacham Elohim derech eretz peloshtim.
Lishtim.
Okay. Oh yes. Pelishtim ki karov hu ki amar Elohim pen nin nachem ha'am bir otam milhama veshavu mitzrayma.
Very good. Veshavu Mitzrayma.
Okay. The
And
stress is not so correct, but it's very
it's okay.
difficult to look to all things.
Absolutely. Your eye is starting to pick up on more and more
Yeah.
things, and it's like juggling. It's like
Yeah.
throwing another ball in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Vayahi is Vayiktol, and it was BeShalach in the sending. This is actually an infinitive construct. So should be translated as to send, but that doesn't sound good in English. And it was in the sending of Pharaoh, the people. Whom did he send out? The people. Velo nacham. And he did not nach is to put or place. Wait, leinachem, lenachem. I'm pretty sure this is a pronominal suffix. So he did not put them, that is, God did not, derech eretz plishtim, on the way of the land of the Philistines, ki karov hu, even though it was close, ki amar Elohim, for the Lord said, pen yinachem ha'am, lest yinachem, he relents, that is, the people would relent, bir otam, in their seeing. This is another infinitive construct. So this is the action of seeing. It is a noun. Some people will tell you it's a verbal form. I get it. It's a verbal form, but it's a noun. That's why we can put be on the front and a pronominal suffix on the end. In their seeing, milchama, war. Vishavu, and then they would return, Mitzrayma, to Egypt. All right, Angela, you have your hand up. Are there any questions on that first verse before we have Angela read the next one? All right, Angela, go ahead. Angela, you're on mute.
Sorry. Okay. Vayasef Elohim et Aham Derek Amid Bar Yam Suf Vaye Mush Shein
Vachamushim.
Vaya Mushim
No, this is a ch. Vacha.
Vahak
Mhm.
Mushim
Mm-hmm.
Alu oh no, what's that? Yeah, Vene
Mm-hmm. V'nei.
Israel
Yisrael.
Meheretz
Mm-hmm.
Mizrahim.
Mitzrayim. All right, let me
Mitzrayim.
read through it one time. You all can follow along. Vayasev Elohim et ha'am Derech Hamidbar Yam Suf Vachamushim Alu V'nei Yisrael Me'eretz Mitzrayim. Vayasev, we can tell it's a Vayiktol because of Vav Patach Dagesh, and we can see the Yiktol prefix Yod that says he is the subject. But what's the root?
Is it nun? Is it
Iron-
nun?
You know what? That's usually a good guess because Nun seems to always want to assimilate as a Dagesh. This one, ironically, is Samech Bet Bet. Because the root is a geminate, meaning both second and third root letters are the same, it means that you're going to often see one of them assimilate and disappear. It appears that this bet is reverse assimilating into the samech. Crazy.
So how would we know that it's not a nun and it's a bet? What's the catch?
Vocabulary is the best way to know. Nasav, I'm not sure that there is a root nasav. You could always go to the dictionary and look it up, and if you don't find it, you have to think, so what else could be missing? When you see a samech and a bet with a dagesh, well, the dagesh says that something is missing. Usually a nun, sometimes a yod, rarely a vav, or a geminate letter. Those are pretty much all of your options.
Right, okay.
Of course, in lakach, we get a missing lamed. Other than that, there really aren't other, a geminate root, besides a geminate root or a repeated letter. Okay, so savav means to go around. So vayasev is going to be, what is that? What binyan is that? Does anybody know? There's a patach there.
PL?
If there's a patach under the yod, it's probably hif'il, causative. So here we see led around, meaning cause someone to go around. So Elohim caused to go around the people. Derech Hamidbar, by way of the wilderness. Yam Suf, of the Red Sea. Does Suf mean red?
No.
No. What does it mean?
Reed.
Reed. So did somebody misspell reed and it became the Red Sea? That's a good question. I'm not really sure why. But reed in Egyptian, it's actually an Egyptian loan word, is suf. However, we also get to see Yam Suf during the time of Solomon. He calls the Gulf of Aqaba, where Eilat is today, he calls it the Yam Suf. Now, if anybody knows anything about geography, if Israel is here, the Galilee is there, the Dead Sea is there, the Negev is here. Basically, here's Egypt. Israel is more or less right here. And here's your Sinai Peninsula. So wherever it is that the Yam Suf is, that's where the Israelites crossed. And Solomon calls this Yam Suf. Now, it could be that this whole area is called Yam Suf, but traditionally, people think that Israel crossed over here to get to Mount Sinai. But there's been a recent, I say recent, it's been since probably the 60s or 70s. There's been a recent push for the crossing to have happened here. And that a lot of the landmarks that the Bible speaks of along the journey of the Israelites through the wilderness, they're all located here in Saudi Arabia. Also, there's something else to remember. when before Moses was commissioned, where was he? What was he doing? He was in Midian.
Egypt, innit? Oh,
He was in Midian. He fled Egypt because he killed a soldier, and then they found out about it. He fled Egypt to Midian, and he married a daughter of the priest of Midian. And it was in the wilderness of Midian that he saw the burning bush. And it was at that burning bush that God says, I will have you bring back your people to this mountain. I will bring you back to this mountain. So, where did Moses bring them back to? Over here? Turns out it was, what was it, Constantine's mother-in-law, Helena? I think she's the one who designated many of the biblical sites where they were located, and she wasn't exactly a historian or a scholar or an academic or anything. She came to a certain place and went, I like it. So this became Mount Sinai. Even though in 1967, when Israel gained control of the Sinai Peninsula, they found absolutely no evidence whatsoever of the Exodus. Maybe they didn't find any evidence because it happened in Midian, like the Bible said. Let's see. Vahamushim. What's the root of this word?
Het mem shin.
What other word do we know that has this root?
Is that Hamash violence?
Hamesh is the
No,
number
wait, I'm
5. It's not. Oh, you might be thinking Hamas. Okay, so it's not Hamas. It's Hamesh. It's okay. Hamesh is the number 5. Now, it appears that the idea of 5 people in a battle unit is the original meaning of this root. And then it ultimately comes to also represent the number 5. Turns out that all of the Hebrew numbers came from some more concrete root, and then the number was derived from it. You can think about maybe completion is related to the number 7. Completion, why completion? Have you ever heard of nishba, to complete an oath, or to swear something and complete an oath? That's the root sheva, which comes to be the number for 7. And that's why people talk about how 7 is the most complete number or something like that, because that's what its root means, to be complete. How about shnayim? The number 2 comes from shin nun yod, the same root as shana. What's a shana?
year.
Shana is a year. What does shnayim have to do with a year? Because a year comes in 2 agricultural cycles, the growing season and the harvesting season. And in fact, the Babylonian and Akkadian calendars were split into 2 parts for that very purpose. So Shana Tova now has 2 meanings in Hebrew, because one of them is the biblical first of the year, and the other is the civil first of, civil first of the year. But both of them were new years in the Babylonian calendar. 2 parts of 1 year, Shana. It's also where we get the root Mishnah. Mishnah, if anybody knows, is the second telling of, it's actually a compilation of case law, if I can put it that way. It's a second telling of the law, in the sense that it is said again a second time. Shana. Also a Mishnah. Oh, the word Mishnah shows up in the Bible 1 time. It says that the king shall write a Mishnah Torah, he shall write a copy of this law. That's where the word Mishnah actually first appears in the Bible. So you get to see Shin Nun Yod appearing in all of these roots. You're probably like, wait, that's a Shin Nun Hey. I know the Hey is a vowel. The Yod went missing, but here you can see the Yod. All right, so Chamushim originally means in a battle array, or not armored. What's the word I'm looking for? Armed, I guess, like armed for battle. However, you're going to get a lot of rabbinic midrash coming from this word. Because Chamushim looks like Chamesh, you're going to get these interesting interpretations that talk about 1/5 of Israelites were left behind, or only 1/5 of Israelites left in the Exodus, or that 1/5 of the crowd that left from the Exodus was actually Egyptians. I mean, where's that written in the Bible? It's not. It comes from this word right here, Chamesh. And then rabbinic interpretation will latch onto this and maybe some other verse elsewhere in the Bible, combine them together and midrashically come up with this new idea and basically preach a sermon on it. Vachamushim alu, and armed in battle array or something like that. Alu, they went up. There's your katal suffix u from the root ein lamed yod, like aliyah, going up. V'nei Yisrael, the children of Israel, me'eretz Mitzrayim, from the land of Mitzrayim. Another midrash is from this right here. Mitzrayim, the root of Mitzrayim is mem tzadi resh, but the rabbis look at this right here. Tsar is trouble. What did we have in Mitzrayim? Trouble. Tsar. And it's easy to do. I mean, it's right there. It's low-hanging fruit. All right. Who wants to read next? Please raise your hand so your picture goes to the top. Okay, Aziz, you had your hand up first from earlier, and then Jesse, you can read the next one. Aziz, go ahead.
ויקח משה את עצמות יוסף עמו, השביע את בני ישראל לאמור, פקוד יפקוד אלוהים אתכם, והעליתם את עצמותי מזה אתכם.
Very good. We were just talking about the number 7, weren't we? And how it has to do with shva, making an oath or swearing. Let me read through it one time. Vayikach Moshe et atzmot Yosef imo, ki hashbea hishbia et bnei Yisrael lemor, pakod yifkod Elohim etchem, והעליתם את עצמותי מזה איתכם. Excuse me, איתכם, audible shva. Vayikach, here's where we get to see a dagesh because of a missing root letter. What letter is missing?
Lamed.
Lamed.
Lamed, right. So nun is the logical guess, but lakach is a very, very unique verb.
Yeah.
Which lamed goes missing. It behaves like a verb that has an initial nun, but it's an initial lamed that goes missing. Okay. So when you get to the part of Hebrew where you start studying these weak roots and letters going missing, nun at the beginning of the root is designated either pei nun, or root number 1 is nun, something like that. you'll notice that they all seem to behave basically the same. The noon often goes missing, and lekach gets thrown into that same bin, that same barrel. And he took, that is, Moshe did. What did he take? Et answers the question. Atzmot. What's atzm? Well, this is where we get our word etzem. Originally, it means bone. But etzem in modern Hebrew can mean one's self. What can I say? Ani shomer al atzmi. I guard or take care of myself. Literally, it's saying I guard my bone. I know, but it comes to mean self, even though originally it means bone. Et atzmot Yosef, the bones of Joseph. Remember, he was buried in Egypt. Amo, with him. Moses took the bones of Joseph with him, and they are buried in Shechem, Nablus, whatever you want to call it, in Samaria, in the tomb of Joseph. Ki hashbea hishbia. These, it sounds an awful lot like these two words are the same. Are they the same?
No.
Same word.
They have a lot of things in common, but technically they're different.
Yeah.
The first one is verb, and the second is noun.
You want to change your answer? So the second one is a verb,
Yeah.
and the first one is an infinitive, which is actually a nominal verb. It's a noun that represents the action of a verb. So we'll call it an infinitive. This is called an infinitive absolute. Its job is simply to add emphasis. So swearing, he swore. I'm sorry. Both of these are a causative he feel binyan. So it's actually not swearing. It's making someone swear. My apologies. So making someone swear, he made someone swear. Whom? He made the children of Israel swear. Lemor, saying, here's going to be the exact same concept. Infinitive, absolute. So this is your nominal verb right there. And this is your actual verb right there. Why is it there? For emphasis. Surely, I don't know if visiting isn't really the best translation, but I'll run with it for now. Visiting, he will visit. Or for plain English, indeed, surely, certainly he will visit. That is, God will. Whom will he visit? Etchem, you all. V'ha'alitem. Here's another he feel causative. And let's see. You all, tem. This is a vekatal. Will. It's causative. Cause. The root is Allah, to go up. Cause to ascend. Okay, that's a lot. Maybe we can just translate it as, and you shall carry. But literally, and you all will cause to go up. What? Atzmotai, my bones. Mise, from here. Itchem, with you. Good. Any questions on this before we go to the next verse?
Okay. Which unit is infinitive absolute?
That's going to be
level?
no. It's going to be level B. Well, yeah, I think it's level B.
Okay.
Before Unit 15.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, this one is such a short verse. I hate to give it to Jesse. Jesse, I want to give you a longer verse. I'm going to read this and then give you the next one. Vayis'u. Yeah. Vayis'u misukot. Vayachanu ve'etam biktsei hamidbar. Here we have a missing noon. Why is there no dagesh here? It's a real bummer. I'd like there to be a dagesh there, but it's not. It's okay. We're smart. We'll figure it out. Nasa means to journey. In modern Hebrew, it means to drive somewhere, to go on a journey. And they journeyed mi Succoth, from a place called Succoth. What are Succoth? Temporary dwellings. It comes from the root schach,
Is it the tents or something?
the booths, the tabernacles, the temporary dwellings. It's also the name of the festival, the festival of booths, or the festival of what is it called? Tabernacles, I guess. I call it Sukkot. And so the root schach has to do with vegetation covering. So evidently that had a nice covering of some vegetation or something like that. Where's the root inside of here? Well, you have a kaf with a strong dagesh. That's the combination of those two kafs together. This is another geminate root. Vayachanu. The root here is chet nun yod. Where's the yod? Yod, as the third root letter, often goes missing. So it's missing. And anybody ever heard of the word machane?
Encampment.
Machane is an encampment, right? In modern Hebrew, chanut is a store. Chana is to park. What? What does an encampment have to do with a store or parking? Well, remember that stores were originally carts. You wheel your cart to the plaza, you set up your store, you sell your wares, and at the end of the day, you cart your way home. So all three of these are related roots. Vayachanu, and they encamped. Ve'etam, at etam. Tanaim. I really, really wonder if this comes from Aleph Tav Nun, but I can't be certain. I'm not sure what etam means. Biktseh Hamidbar, in the edge of the wilderness. All right, here's a nice long one for Jesse. Go ahead.
Okay. Va'adonai holech lifnechem yomam be'amud anan lan hotam haderech ve'lela be'amud esh lichair lachem lalechet yomam valela.
Valayla.
Laila.
Very good. Va'adonai holech lifnehem yomam ba'amud anan lanchotam haderech v'layla be'amud esh leha'ir lahem lalechet yomam v'layla. Let's see. And the Lord holech. What kind of a word is this? Holech? Or what's the root?
Halach.
Okay,
Yod,
good.
Yod and Yod Lamed Kaf.
Okay, I'm with you. I think that the root originally was either Yod or Vav Lamed Kaf, but for one reason or another, Hebrew changed it to Hey Lamed Kaf, Halach, to walk. So with the O-E vowels, what kind of a word is this?
That participle.
Participle, right. For simple action, the O-E pattern is a participle. Great. What's a participle? Usually it's an ing action. doing, running. Here it's going to be walking or going. And the Lord going. What? We're missing something. Yeah, the verb. And the Lord was going lifnehem, before them. Yomam. What is yom?
Day.
Day. So yomam is an adverb that means by day. Be'amud. Amad. What's the root amad?
Stand.
Stand. Very good. How about the prayer called Amidah? Does anybody know the prayer called Amidah?
That's standing prayer.
It's the standing prayer. It's also known as the 18 or Shmonesre 18. What else is it called? I guess it's the standing prayer, the Amidah. And so it all has to do with standing. A pillar is a thing that stands. A pillar of what? Anan, of cloud. That's another geminate root. Ain nun nun. Lan chotam. Hey, the root here is, let's see, lan chotam. Oh, I guess it would be nun chet yod. So we get a missing yod right here. Why didn't the noon go missing? Usually when noon comes at the end of a syllable, it assimilates into the next letter as a dagesh. Why didn't they put a dagesh right here in this chet and make the noon go missing?
Guttural.
Because gutturals are dagesh intolerant. They're not going to take a dagesh, so the noon remains. Lan chotam, to lead them. Haderech, on the way. Valayla. Okay, so just to remind everybody, by day, he goes in a pillar of cloud to lead them. Valayla, and by night, ba'amud esh, as a pillar of esh, fire. Leha'ir. What's the root of leha'ir?
Ayin yod resh.
Okay, it's an aleph.
Aleph. Sorry.
Uh-huh. It's actually aleph vav resh. Where's the vav? It's gone. The verbal pattern that this follows is hefil, causative. We have the hey and we have the chirik yod, and that chirik yod actually swallows up the vav. So we have another category of weak roots. If you get a yod or a vav in the middle, sometimes you'll get a weak letter that goes missing, will disappear. So leha'ir, if it's causative and it comes from the root or, which means light, how do we translate to cause light? To illuminate. So he would go as a pillar of fire to illuminate lahem, for them. Lalechet, so they could walk. Yomam valayla, by day and by night. All right, any questions on this before we go to the next reader?
Jared, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Leha ear. I thought I'm confused about ear and or. I thought or is light.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Or is light.
Okay, so what happened?
What
How
happened?
come it became an ear?
Mm-hmm. Very good. The reason it became ear is because of the verbal, because it is inside of a hefil binyan. This right here is a normal hefil verb. Here's your first root letter shin, second root letter bet, third root letter ayin. If we would put the root aleph vav resh into this pattern, then we would get, let's see, what was it? Leha'ir. So it would be le ha weir, like this. If we took Aleph Vav Resh, put it into the Hifiel pattern, this is what we would get. Le ha wir. Remember, Vav was originally a W sound. This Vav Chirik Yod is a triphthong. Hebrew will simplify those. So rather than saying le ha wir, it just becomes le ha ir. Also notice we can't put a shva under an aleph. So the aleph will reject the shva, put kamatz there, and this triphthong simplifies down. Le ha ir. And in fact, that's what we get right there. So because Vav shows up in the second root letter, that is a weak verbal root. Vav is a weak letter. Sometimes when it creates triphthongs, it goes missing. And here's an example of it. This is whether a Vav or a Yod shows up will sometimes will tell us what binyan a verb is. Think, for example, habo versus havi. Okay, if I did that, it would have to be habo like this versus havi like that. Okay, so consonantally, they're spelled the same. But what does each of these mean? Well, bet Vav Aleph is the root, and it means to come, arrive, or possibly even go somewhere. So habo, I'm not sure we could actually do that, could we? Habo, it would be like the coming of, maybe? Like bo HaMashiach, the coming of the Messiah. But then havi, well, this is your he feel hey, and we can tell because of the yod. So you're causing something to come or bringing something. So the vav versus the yod can tell you a lot. All right, who will be reading next? If no one wants to read, I'll read. But remember, I want to give you guys a chance to read.
I need to practice. I need to practice. So
well, Jesse got you by just a split second. So
okay,
I did just read though.
All right, I know, but nobody else is.
No, it's all right. Yes,
Jesse,
Okay.
go ahead.
Lo yamish amud ha'anan yomam ve'amud ha'esh Laila lifnei ha'am.
Very good. That was very short. Go ahead and read this one too.
Va daber Adonai el Moshe more.
Very good. So the previous verse was Lo Yamish Amud He'anan Yomam Ve'amud Ha'esh Laila Lifnei Ha'am. So Yamish, what's the root of Yamish? Anybody? Since we just talked about Ha'ir.
is it a mem? No, maybe not. And shin.
So the yod must be a yictol prefix. So that means either we're looking at mem yod shin and it's a kal binyan, or we're looking at mem vav shin and it's a hifil binyan. Now, which one it is, I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But now you can kind of weigh out your options. Now you know where to go in the dictionary. You'll either look up mem vav shin or mem yod shin. And if it's this one over here, then you know that's a he feel causative. All right. So, and he did not take away amud ha'anan, the pillar of cloud, yomam by day, the amud ha'esh laila, and the pillar of fire by night, lifnei ha'am, before They have from before. Yeah, it's implied from before the people. The second part that Jesse read, Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, is an extremely common verse, or some combination or permutation of it, something very close to this. You could see this all the time throughout the Torah. And the Lord said to Moses, saying, what did he say? That's for Angela to read.
Davar el bnei Israel veyashuvu veya veyaenu lefnei pi amirat yeah.
That's a chet.
Oh, ket
Achirot. Achirot.
Akirot. Okay. And Ben Migdol Uven Amyam
Hayam.
Yam Lefnei Vahal Ze. Oh, did I say that wrong?
Baal instead of
Bahal.
Baal.
Yeah,
Baal.
Bahal Zephon.
Zephon.
Zephon. Why
Yeah.
have they got 10 and 3 dots instead of the?
They don't. They have 2 dots next to 1 dot. So the 2 dots are your canton mark. Like there's another one there, and is there another one elsewhere on the page? I don't see one. Sorry, it was on the
Okay.
previous page maybe. And then the O is next to it.
Oh, okay. Nick O
Nicho.
Niku
Excuse me, I said that wrong. Nicho. Boy, that's hard to say.
Nico and Ta Anu Al Ayam.
Hayam. Daber el bnei Yisrael v'yashuvu v'yachanu lifnei pi hachirot ben migdol uven hayam lifnei Baal Tzefon nicho tachanu al hayam. All right, so daber. What form is this verb?
Appeal.
PL. Okay, so PL is the binyan. What form is this?
Oh, what's the form again? Is it masculine? Is that the form?
Form will be like katal, yiktal, infinitive, one of those.
Oh, it's called
Imperative.
It's an imperative.
Imperative. Okay.
Yep. We know it's imperative. Why? Well, because it's got a missing tav. Tedaber is the standard yiktal 2ms form. And when we lop off that tav, we get the imperative. So it's kind of like turn left where the old post office used to be. You have to imagine this tav being here. Or we can just look at the patach, strong dagesh, and even tzere, and we're like, oh, those are the vowels that show up in a PL yiktol. Daber, speak, do it. Clear this off. There we go. Speak, el bnei Israel, to the children or sons of Israel, v'yashuvu. How would you, okay, this is a kal binyan. The root is shuv. We've got a missing vav there, but we've got the oo sound because of that vav. And what if I change that oo to an e? How would it change the meaning? Veyashivu. What's the difference in meaning between veyashuvu and veyashivu?
One's causative.
Yep. This one here is causative. Hifil binyan. So there it's saying that they turn back, but here they are turning something back. They are causing something to turn back. Vayachanu. Yes, question?
I was just wondering, what's the significance of the shurik under the shin?
The chirik under the
No,
shin.
the next word, veyashuvu.
Veyashuvu. Here we've got kibbutz. The
I'm
kibbutz.
sorry, kibbutz, yeah.
So the kibbutz is there to remind us of
Before?
the missing vav. The root of the word is shin vav bet, and in this particular word, no vav was inserted there. Why? Because vavs as a mater lectionis had not been invented yet. This is a very ancient text, and when we do see a mater lectionis, it's because somebody came along and added it. But yeah, this was not originally there, and it's not being represented with an actual vav in this verb. But then the Masoretic scribe came along and put a kibbutz under it to help us read it correctly, even though there's a missing vav. Essentially, the vav was probably originally there in the Proto-Semitic language, but then was lost because it was a triphthong. Think about it. If we take v'yashuv, let's take let's take vayishmor or vayishmaru and then put in shuv instead. So we would need to take this out, put in a vav instead. And what do you get? Well, the vayi is just a vayiktol. Originally, there was a yaktul pattern. So it would have been yash vuv or yashwuv. And the combination of the vav and the kibbutz is superfluous. It's a let's see, is that a diphthong or a triphthong? I guess a diphthong. And it's simplified down to just a kibbutz. Again, weak letter. Vav or yod in the middle root letter is weak. It will cause that vav or yod either to disappear or turn into a vowel. Let's see. Vayachanu. Here we've got a missing yod from chet nun yod, and they encamped. Lifnei pihachirot. Before what? I don't know. Pi is the mouth of. Achirot. Not sure what that means. Achirot. Anyway, it's a location name. Piachirot. Where is it located? Ben Migdol, between a place called Migdol, which looks an awful lot like a Migdal, a great tall place. Uven Hayam, and between the sea. Probably the Mediterranean Sea, the Great Sea. Lifnei, before, in front of, Baal Tzafon. So here's another place name. Baal, we know who Baal is, but it can also mean master or owner of, and that's how it's usually used in modern Hebrew. So what does this mean? Is it Baal of Tzafon, like storm god of Tzafon? Well, maybe. Remember that Tzafon is the same root as Tzafon north, and also Tzafon to hide. And in fact, Mount Tzafon, that's up in Turkey, is essentially the Mount Olympus of the ancient Near East, where the gods tuck themselves away. So Baal Tzafon could be one who has something hidden, or it could be the god Baal at Tzafon. But ironically, it is south of Israel, yet it's called Tzafon. So it probably has more to do with hiding than it does north. Nichachol says before it. Tachanu, you shall encamp. Al hayam, at or by the sea. Okay, any follow-up questions before we move on? Who would like to read? Please put your hand up. Let's see, where are we? Let's get to the right place. There we go. That's where we are. All right, Aziz, would you like to read? Go ahead.
ואמר פרעה לבני ישראל, נבוכים הם בארץ, סגר עליהם המדבר.
Very good. Ve'amar Paro livnei Yisrael, and Pharaoh will say is what it's being translated here, because of Vekatal Vav. And he will say, Pharaoh will say, livnei Yisrael, to or for, here it's of, concerning the sons of Israel. Nivuchim hem, tangled up are they. Okay, what's the root of this word? Nevuchim.
נבח.
Good. And what form is this word?
This is הווה.
It's passive participle. Like what's another one? Shamur is something that is guarded. So shmurim are ones who are guarded. So this is the same thing. E'uim, it's a passive participle. They are entangled. Ba'aretz, in the land. Sagar, let's see, hang on a second. Sagar alehem hamidbar. So sagar is to close. Alehem, upon them. Hamidbar. So he's saying this is your subject. The wilderness has closed in upon them. All right, Angela, your turn to read.
The keys that Zakti.
V'chizakti.
Oh, okay. Et Lev Paro Veira Daf Ekar Akarem
Acharehem.
Akarem Veinika Kavda and
Ve'ikavda.
Nikadaf Beth Befar Befarot
Befaro.
Befaro Uvkal
Uvachol.
Elo Veyadu
Veyadu.
Veyadu Mitzrahim Ki Ani Adonai is Adonai, yeah. Adonai. Yep. And it's all the other the contemplation marks is confusing me. Vaya asu ken.
Vaya asuchen. Good. I'm sorry that the cancellation marks are,
no, it's all right. I need to get used to it.
Exactly. That's my opinion, is that we got to get used to it because they tell us where to put the stress. They tell us where there's a pause in the sentence. We should get used to them being there because they're there in the biblical Hebrew text. V'chizakti, from the root chazak. I will make something chazak. But this is a PL. I thought making something such and such was the job of he feel. Well, kind of. PL is the binyan that's used whenever you're making a certain state of being true. There are lots of state of being verbs, like to be strong, or to be large, or to be high, or to be lacking. And if you're making that true for somebody, you'll put it in the PL. That's why we have a difference between roots like sameach, to be happy, versus simeach, to make somebody happy. Oops, put it on the right side. This one is a kal binyan. This one is a PL. So sameach, I am joyful. Simeach, I am making someone joyful. And that's what's happening here. V'chizakti, and I will make hard et lev paro, the heart of Pharaoh. Veradaf, and he will pursue achareihem, after them. Ve'ikavada, what's the root? Kaved, to be heavy. Aleph says I. The Ia tells us it's nifal. And the hey at the end is cohortative. Let me be honored. Oh, that I might be honored, or something like that. Befaro, in Pharaoh. Uvechol chelo, and in all of his chayil. What is chayil? Eshet chayil mi yimtza, verachok mi pninim michra. Chayil is the word used for the woman of valor, which comes from Proverbs 31. Chayil is strength, power, could be valor, could be an army. So here, since we're talking about Pharaoh's chayil, we're probably talking about his army, his strength.
What's the difference between this word for army and the other word for army?
Tzava is the other word for army and has to do with multitudes, a host.
Okay.
So it's they're synonymous, but for two different reasons, whether it's a large crowd or whether it's a strong force.
Right, okay.
V'yad'u, and they shall know. We've got yada with a conversive of, and they will know. Who will? Mitzrayim, that Egypt will know, or the Egyptians. Ki ani Adonai, that I am the Lord. Vaya'asu chen. And so they did. There's your vayiktol. Root is asa. Chen. Well, the word ken means yes. Well, in modern times it does, but it comes from the root kun, which means something established. What did they do? That thing we just mentioned earlier that's already been established. Thus or so. Okay, we have a few more minutes. We can probably get enough time for one or two more verses. Does anyone want to read? Anyone who hasn't yet? Step right up. Don't be shy. Okay, either I can read or we can close early. I've got a
I can read.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Go ahead.
Okay. Okay. Vayogad lemelech mitzrayim ki bara ha'am vayehav. Oh, nee, vayehafech. Oh yeah, vayehafech. Levav Pharaoh va'avadav el ha'am vayomeru ma yeah, zot.
Mazot.
Ah,
Zot.
Zot. Okay. Zot. Azinu.
Asinu.
Asino.
Very good.
Ki shilachnu et Yisrael me'av denu.
Ooh, what is
Right.
that? What is that?
Avad.
Right.
Short
The
O.
root is
Very good. So the root is avad. Me is a preposition which will show up in front of a noun. What form of a verb is a noun? This is a question for anyone. What form of a verb is actually a noun?
I don't really understand the question, so I'll just not answer.
All right. I mentioned earlier how an infinitive construct is actually a nominal verb, meaning it's a noun describing the action of the verb. So I love running. Running is not a verb. Yes, it is. No, it isn't, because I love it. What do I love? I love noun, the act of running. No, but running is a verb. No, it's a noun that represents an action. So an infinitive construct is a noun, but it derives from a verb, an action, and it is onto nouns that we add these prepositions. Because there's a preposition here, that tells me to expect an infinitive construct. Okay. Infinitive constructs. What vowels do infinitive constructs have? We've got ayin, bet, dalet. How do we make an infinitive construct out of it?
It needs a O.
Yeah.
So if this didn't have a guttural in it, I would say we put a shva here and we put an O right there. Clearly, we can't put a shva under an ayin, so we're going to put a reduced vowel right there. But then when we go and add a suffix like enu, meaning this act of serving belongs to us, or the one they are serving us, actually, when you add that enu, you're actually borrowing this dalet here. So now this holam is no longer a closed stress syllable, drops to a shva. Which have two shvas in a row. This O is going to affect that reduced vowel and make a kamatz katan. So this is me'ovdenu, kamatz katan. How did I know there's a kamatz katan there? Because the me tells me it's an infinitive, and infinitives have O vowels. So from the action of serving unto us. All right, so I'm going to read through that, and then we'll see if we can find anything interesting. Vayugad lemelech Mitzrayim kivarach ha'am vayehafech levav paro vayavadav. Excuse me, I said that wrong. Va'avadav el ha'am vayomeru מה זאת עשינו? כי שילחנו את ישראל מעובדנו. Now this is interesting to me because if you go to the previous verse, where is it? No, is it before that? Yeah, here we go. No. Where was it? Where is it said it was reported to him that Israel, here we go, that Israel fled. It was reported, it was told unto the king that Israel fled. But then down here, he says, what is this that we have done in sending away the people of Israel? So which one is it? I guess it's both, right? He sent them away, but they fled. Okay. Because it seems like fleeing is leaving without an invitation to leave. Shilach is to send away, give an invitation to leave. Which one is it? What binyan is this verb here? Vayehafech.
As a PL,
Good. How do you know?
because of the sere under the middle letter.
But if it were a PL, it should have a shva right there.
Yeah, but because the root letter, I'm looking under the middle root letter. That's
What's
why.
the middle root letter?
Which is the oh, you're gonna tell me it's not.
I don't know. Look,
So what I thought.
which one? Okay, so Vav Patach Dagesh tells us we're looking at a Vayiktol, which tells us the Yod is the Yiktol prefix. So all we have left is Hey, Pei.
Yeah, so the pay, so the
Very
pay
good.
is a pay. Yeah,
Good.
that's what I
Okay,
thought.
usually in a PL, where do we have a good PL? Do we have a Yiktol PL somewhere in here? I don't see a Yiktol PL. Let's look at Yish. Look, I'll use Yisameach. Yisameach. You have a Shva under the Yod, Patach under the first root letter, Dagesh,
Okay.
and Tzere on the
Tzere.
second root letter. And then in this particular word, we'll also get a furtive Patach, but that's not important. Okay, so we do have a Tzere. We don't have a Dagesh. We do have an A vowel, but it's not a Patach. The trick is that if this pay were a guttural, then we would get kamatz tzere. But we don't get the shva here. So it's not a PL. What's the binyan?
It's not a PL then.
Not a PL.
Oh, so is it Ifil? Ifil.
No, because a hefil expects to have a patach under the yiktol prefix letter. Is there any binyan that expects to have a tzere under the yiktol prefix letter? Not usually.
Yes. No.
Which one? Not usually. Think about it. Let's list out all the binyanim. Okay, there's Kal, there's Nifal, PL, Pual. Actually, you know what? I could just pull up a cheat sheet instead of going through all of this right here. Let's look at this one right here.
Well, it must be a call then, isn't it?
So most people, most of my students use this big chart on the right, but there's actually a chart over here on the left. Look at all the yiktol forms. Kal expects a chirik under the yiktol prefix letter. Nifal does too. PL and Pual expect a shva. Hefil patach. Hufal either a kibbutz or a kamatz katan or a shurik. And then Hitpael has a chirik. So which one expects a tzere? None of them.
None of them. But you said it's not a PL, so it's got to be something else.
Of course.
So
yeah, it's something else. What is it? Which one of these looks most like that one?
Well, it's Nifal.
This one right here?
But no, it can't be a Nifal because no, it can't be a Nifal because the Nifal is something's been lengthened.
Very good. See, Nifal in the Yiktol should have a Dagesh in that first root letter. Alas, the first root letter is a guttural.
Yeah.
We can't put a Dagesh inside of the Hey.
So it is Nifal then. Oh,
so it's lengthening the Chirik into a Tzere. It is Nifal.
Okay.
From the root Hafach, to flip or overturn. So we've got Vayehafech, and it was overturned. What was? Levav Paro, the heart of Pharaoh. Va'avadav, and the heart of his servants. El Ha'am, pertaining to the people, toward the people. Vayomeru, and they said, Mazot. Why is there a dagesh in this letter Zayin? Is it a weak dagesh or strong dagesh?
It's got to be weak, isn't it?
Weak only shows up in Begad Kifat letters.
Oh, okay. But if
Ah.
it's not a doubling, because it can't be a
Construct
doubling
chain?
there.
What? Who else said something?
Construct chain?
I don't
Mazot.
think it can be a construct chain because ma is a question word.
Yes.
But even if it
It's
were
a
a
makef.
construct chain, it still doesn't explain why a dagesh shows up at the beginning of a word.
But it's a makef. Mazot.
There is a makef here,
Yeah, and then
but that still
mazot.
doesn't explain the dagesh. What is a strong dagesh tell us? What does a strong dagesh tell us?
Usually that is doubling, but it's not a doubling word, is it? Can't be a doubling letter at the beginning.
What does your instructor always tell you that strong dagesh tells you? Tells you something is missing.
Oh, yeah,
So
okay.
yes, this is a strong doubling dagesh in the Zayin. But what letter is missing? What do you call bread from heaven?
Like
Mana.
What do you call bread from heaven?
Mana.
Manna.
oh, mana.
Manna. So what's the question word ma?
What or why? Why?
It comes
Man.
from man. What we think of as ma, this is a mater lectionis. It is not a consonantal hey. The word is man, and that's where the word manna comes from, because this is part of the word ma. What is it? Manna. Here, where has the noon gone?
Into the
It
into,
assimilated into the following letter. So instead of manzot, it's mazot. Doubling
Mazot.
dagesh. Mazot asinu. What is this that we did or have done? There's your new, we did it, your root, ein sin yod. Here you actually get to see the final yod root letter, even though it turned into a vowel. Ki shilachnu, that we have sent away et Yisrael me'ovdenu, from serving us. All right. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's lesson and have learned something wonderful from it. I look forward to seeing you all next week. And if you like these kinds of teachings, please support it. And I look forward to, I really, really love teaching you all. Just to let you know, you guys are great students. And I look forward to seeing you next week. Shalom. V'lehitraot.
Shalom, late.
Shalom.
Thank you.
La
Thank you.
shalom.
Mm.